Hold on, guys. We're getting there. Getting there.
Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
What's out there? What creates the shadows in the corners or the creatures of the dark? Who are those on the other side? What do they have to say? This is the Gateway Podcast. This is not your normal style of paranormal talk radio. Brought to you live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans.
You're listening to UFO Undercover with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
At least I hit the live button. Hey, everybody, how are you? Welcome to the Sunday night edition of Into the Night with me, your host, Sean Kelly. And it is awfully cold here. And it is extremely cold here. And it's snowing. My God, I haven't seen so much snow. God only knows. I mean, and the salt trucks are. Hey, Heidi, good to see you. Sparky, good to see you. Hey, Tim, good to see you. Thank you for stopping in tonight. But it's cold. I know Monday, tomorrow is going to be the high 10 degrees. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, it's going to be -2 and -5 degrees. Oh, my gosh. And so I just, I really would like to thank UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 Mississippi, 107.7 New Orleans, for allowing me to give you my hour on Sunday nights, 8:10, 9:10, and also on Tuesday nights. So I got two different shows, Sunday nights and Tuesday nights. Why I'm stuttering is because I'll tell you what, honest to gosh, I got a great guest tonight. All right, I really do. And you're all going to enjoy her. I was on her show last Tuesday, and I had a lot of fun being on her show. So I asked her to come on my show Sunday night, and she said, yeah, sure. So I got to go to my phone, brand new one. What a pain in the butt that was. All right, let me get there. All right. Then I got to go to Messenger. Let me see if I can find the Messenger. If I can bring it up. And of course, I don't. Well, all I know is that this young lady lives out in Las Vegas. Okay. And she's a good person. And I found my Messenger. I think I did. No, it didn't. Okay. Well, instead of, well, come on, Lord, I just had it. Like, seriously, not 2 minutes ago. But I tell you what, and it's one of them days. It's one of them days. And I will find her bio eventually. But, I just can't keep her waiting. I can't keep you guys waiting. Um, she is the host of the Gateway Podcast. And it's on Tuesday nights from 9:10 to 10:10 Eastern. And over there on Pacific, she's there, let's see, 6 to 9. So I am just going to keep my mouth shut and I'm going to introduce you to her. And her name, my friend, my guest tonight is C.L. Thomas of the Gateway Podcast. Hello, Miss CL, how are you? And I'm sorry, but I had it set up. I had everything set up. And oh my gosh. And of course, the typical day, it just like went bananas, of
Totally
course.
blank.
Right?
Just went
Right.
totally.
And yes. Hey, Michelle, good to see you, hon. And Heidi says, CL, much love from Boulder. Can you
Hi.
see the chats?
Yes, I can. See,
And
Boulder,
that-
Colorado.
Yes.
Hello from
There-
Las Vegas. I think that's what you were trying to say, that I was from Las Vegas.
Yes, absolutely. And my brother Patrick is in the house too. That's my brother. But
Hi, Patrick.
tell us about yourself, please.
I'm
So I find your bio. Go ahead.
I am a writer and I'm an author, and I live here in Las Vegas, and I have a paranormal radio show on Tuesday nights, 6 o'clock Pacific time. It's right before your show. And what else? Paranormal has been pretty much my life for the
Okay.
particularly the last couple of years, but I grew up into paranormal. We'll probably talk about that later.
Oh,
And
of course.
I do spirit art on the
That's
side.
interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting. The spirit art. What got you into spirit art?
So I've grown up, it's the typical medium story, right? You started seeing ghosts at age 2. Everyone says that. It really is true for me. I did start seeing ghosts. I didn't realize though that I was a spirit artist until the last couple of years. And I'll tell you why. It's because the paranormal world, the more you interview people who are mediums and have gifts and abilities, you figure out that it kind of works slightly different for some mediums versus others. So some of them can audibly hear, some of them have all of their, it's declares, right?
Mhm.
And then spirit will speak to people differently. Everyone has their own spirit language. For me, I'm an artist. I've been an artist my whole life. And what that means is I paint, and I'm a photographer and fine arts artist. And I've had a lot of galleries and things like that. But the way that spirit appears to me is very visual. So I'm able to sketch out the person, and 9 out of 10 times it has a lot of similarities between the person's loved one that they're trying to connect with. So it kind of went from there. And then I hooked up with, there's another guy, Scott Allen. A lot of you might know him. He's a known medium in the paranormal world. We both got trained under the Spiritualist Church under a guy named Joseph Shield. And of course, Scott went off into doing gallery work and that sort of mediumship. And I kind of went off and did the spirit art. Joseph Shield is actually a really good spirit artist, and I got to learn a lot from him. But it really, talking to him and comparing what he does versus to the abilities and how spirit shows himself to me, it was just no question that I had that ability to do that as well.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Wojo, good to see you, buddy. Thank you for popping in. Sparky's Paranormal has a question. So, medium from a clairvoyant or touched person, or those that are just tuned in?
I'm not sure what he means by that. I'm guessing he means the type of how does the spirit connect with me? Is that the question, Sparky?
I think that could be it. I think that's how the question. Yeah.
Well, it's very visual, and the way it appears to me, I'll see the spirit. I can hear little things. I'll pick up small things, but it's never like a full story, if that makes sense. So
Hmm.
if you were my sitter, you would come to me, and I would just sit there and meditate for a few minutes, and then it's like seeing flashes. Is the only way I can describe it. Like it'll come pretty quickly. I'll start seeing like flashes of imagery of the person. Sometimes it's an object that's connected to the person. It just depends. I'll hear like a name will flash in my head. Just that's how it appears to me.
Okay. Okay. And I know a lot of people that get into spirit photography. Have you heard of that? Have you tried that?
Yes, I have. So spirit photography is a whole different genre. So back in the 1800s, when the camera was first came out, um, spiritualism was really big back then. You had a lot of people, like the Fox sisters, they were probably one of the first American spirit artists where they would set up and supposedly a spirit would show up and paint on a painting. And of course, the room's like dark and all that kind of stuff. A lot of that stuff wasn't true. It was a lot of like stealing and things like that. A lot of fakery going on. So
Okay.
with spirit art, the photography that you're talking about kind of started in that era. And what they were doing was they would take an image and then they would take another image of a person in a room. And then when you develop film, if you've ever developed film, you can overlay images onto one print sheet when you're developing
Hmm.
film. So you
Okay.
develop it, there's a process of developing it, and then there's like the actual print. So when you print it, you just lay there's like I forget the name of that. It's been so long since I've been in a dark room, but there's an imagery, I forget the name of that machine that takes that image off the film and flashes it onto the developer paper. You just do that twice to overlay it. It's that easy.
Okay.
And then you develop it, and there you have it. You get those wispy old photos with the spirit in it from the 18th century and early 19th century. I think that stuff went all the way up into the 30s. So that said, you have to be really careful with a lot of that stuff because it's so easy to manipulate film and
Right.
saying any of it's
Right.
not real, but
I it's kind of hard, especially with digital. Hold on one second there. Sparky says, oh, so it's like mind's eye kind of thing. Yes, exactly, Spark. Hey, Robert, good to see you, pal. Welcome to the show. But I've been on numerous um, investigations, and I mean, we have gotten some good, solid, you know, very good, like uh, spirits on film. I haven't sent them to you yet, but a lot. What really got me upset was how a lot of people would take pictures and they desperately um, wanted to, show, hey, look what I got a spirit, I got a spirit, I got a spirit, and they fake it, just like EVPs, right? I
unfortunately,
mean,
that's the case out there. But there
yeah,
is, I mean, there is photos that will show up with spirits, though. There is, and I'll tell you, you have to wonder, Sean. I've taken just from being a photographer in my life, I've taken thousands and thousands of photos. And the
hmm,
interesting thing is, you can always tell when it's light refraction and things like that, right?
right,
The orbs, though, I mean, you could tell if it's dust and that sort of thing too. It's real easy to find
hmm,
that out right away. But it's interesting that you will get like a really big basketball or baseball size orbs in haunted places, but you won't get
okay,
those anywhere else.
hmm.
So that's the curious thing about that.
Cassie Gold says, "Hi, I'm on my daughter's phone account. Weirdest thing is she was 18% battery, and a minute or two later, her phone died and shut down." Well, I'm glad you made it, Cass. Seriously. Hey, Mark Eddy, good to see you. But speaking of orbs, because I mean, this is a touchy situation for me. When I started the group in 2006, okay, I was a firm believer in orbs. I really was. I mean, nothing could change my mind. But as time went on, okay, and I really did some research on the orbs, I found out what was dust, what was dew, dew, and bugs. Bugs are pretty cool. If you ever catch a bug at night, anybody? And
Oh
you can
yeah.
actually catch their wings flopping. It's pretty cool. But to me, what a good orb would be is when somebody actually felt a presence around them and somebody took a picture. And you get an orb that is like bright as a moon. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
To
Yes.
me, that is a pure orb. And guess what? I found your
You
found
found
your bio,
it. Hey,
so I'm going to read it.
at
So
least
I'm
you
going
don't
to.
have to read it. They don't want to know all that boring.
Well, you are not boring. Hush, hush. Uh, CL was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. After graduating from Belmont University, she moved to Nashville in pursuit of a career in communications and photojournalism, where she lived for 15 years. CL travels widely as a fine arts photographer and writer, exploring various afterlife research, OBEs, metaphysics, folklore, and paranormal events and group. She is the producer and the host of Small Time Tales podcast and the Gateway Radio Show on Public United Radio Network, and an established content writer for entertainment and author. Her works include Speaking to Shadows and Dancing with Demons. Is that your books?
Yes.
Okay. Um, CL is also a spirit artist who does sittings on request. She currently resides in Las Vegas, Nevada, with her beloved golden retriever and Maine Coon cat. They're huge, man. They're huge. Them boys are big. What's your retriever's name?
Reese, as in Reese's Pieces.
Oh, Reese. Okay. Well, tell Reese I said hello. Okay, we got some things going on. Well, I don't know. It's just a weird night tonight. Where are you at that drain of your battery? Oh, he's talking to Cassie. Okay, so let's get to your books. Okay, I really want to know, especially Dancing with Demons.
That book is about a haunting that occurred in Nashville, Tennessee. That's the one I was telling you about on Tuesday.
Okay.
That book is about a negative haunting that I lived with for a period of 8 months, 9 months, somewhere around there. Um, this house was, man, I can't even. This house is like the first time that I was ever afraid of any kind of paranormal activity.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those, it's like you said, it's one of those stories that you feel like was made up or something by the person, but it's really not. It
Mm-hmm.
really happened. The reason why I wrote the book was not to write a movie or anything like that, like we talked about on Tuesday, but to be able to help somebody else that might have experienced a similar situation as what I did. So,
Mm-hmm.
long story short, I don't want to get into too many details with the book. It kind of talks a little bit about my background with the paranormal. When I moved into this house, I had a significant other. It totally destroyed our relationship. And just there was so much negativity in my life at this time when this happened. And just so much happened in a short time. I actually walked away from that house with stage 2 cancer.
Oh my
That
God.
I attribute it to all the negative energy that I was going through with the haunting. So I'm not trying to say that cancer or that the paranormal causes cancer, but in this
Hmm.
situation, it did make me sick. But
Um,
the house kind
can
of
I
taught
ask?
me that.
Can I ask what kind of things happen to you?
Yeah, so it started out small, like just little stuff, little random stuff. My significant other was pretty uptight about stuff. Like the keys had to be in a certain place. Everything had a place in the house, and if I had to, if your shoes was anywhere out of place, he would get mad about it. So it just started out with objects moving around the house, and then he would
Hmm.
blame me for it. Like his keys would be missing, and then
Right.
they would just reappear. It affected him more than me in the beginning, but I started seeing like the shadows and that sort of thing, but it was still pretty calm. Like I didn't really notice anything that big at that point. But he started taking on a totally different personality. And it was
Hmm.
like a very angry energy to the point where I wanted him out of the house for my own safety.
Okay.
So I asked him to move out. We broke up, and I asked another friend to move in. When she moved in, the activity really ramped up. We had stuff being thrown around the house. I got scratched. We were hearing "get out." We couldn't have guests over because it would just bother the guests. Just one thing after another. My roommate was really concerned with the activity because she was being really affected as well. She called around for some paranormal investigators and found a group that was willing to come in. And they came in, they investigated the house. They stayed a weekend. Of course, I know we talked about this on Tuesday that you were laughing that people back then would make the people leave.
Yeah.
They made me leave because I seemed to be, and I'm not going to go into this, but I was kind of the brunt of the activity at that point. So they asked me to leave. So I went away. When I came back, they had so much evidence, and that they came back and said that this was the first house that they ever investigated that was genuinely haunted, and they had never gotten that many EVPs before. So on
Hmm.
the EVPs, they caught several children's voices asking where I was. Like you can hear, these were Class A EVPs. Where's Crystal? Where's Crystal? Like they kept asking that.
Hmm.
Um, and then there was a man in there that kept telling them to get out. They just said all kinds of things. I won't get into that either. But
Yeah.
they also caught a 4-foot shadow that appeared in the hallway on camera. They have that on camera. It was very interesting.
Hmm.
So, of course, they had a historical person on their team. And when they came back with the research and they said that the property that our house was on, was the rental house. The property that it was on, there was two things there. One of it was the front line of the Battle of Nashville.
Oh wow.
When they found out, it was interesting because by then I was like finding little, the 4-pounder cannonballs, the little
Hmm.
ones, and like they're called three ringers, the little shots that they would
Yeah.
shoot,
The
things like
bullets. The
that.
bullets. Yeah.
Yes. Um, I would just find those in the garden and stuff. But the other
Hmm.
thing too is there was a plantation house on those grounds at one time, and they think that the slave quarters were actually where my house was located. So
Okay.
really interesting history there. Of course, none of that, the house and all that's gone. But they came back and said they felt like it was something tied to the land. And it was because there was our house, and then our house was like a duplex. So there was a neighbor that lived right on the other side of the wall that I shared in my bedroom. And I go very deeply into that in the book as well. But the activity seemed to go through that wall into the house next door. Um, she passed away mysteriously. We still don't know what exactly happened, but she was found dead one morning. And then we had another neighbor who was right across, like we shared this big parking lot, and she lived in the other house that was also a duplex. And she ended up dying mysteriously within 2 weeks of the other one. She
That's
accidentally fell on the steps one night. So you
wow.
had these two like mysterious things that happen. And the thing is that all of us were single women, We all had something happening, and it's just a lot that's all similar with it, to where we felt like the energy was attacking and singling out women for whatever reason.
Okay, Sparky has a question for you, hon. Question. So when you say tied to the land, that makes me think of an elemental, or are you speaking of old grounds of old spirits?
Neither, actually. They believe that it was human spirits from the property owners from the plantation or from the Civil War that happened there, the battlegrounds.
That's that's pretty interesting. But I can see why you wanted to get out. I would have gotten out. I mean, at that time, I probably wouldn't know nothing about paranormal experiences, and a dumbass like me would probably call it out at that time. But well, I'm I'm kind of glad that you got out of there. What made you go to Vegas? I mean, that's like from one
Uh,
end of the city
yeah.
country.
So the Vegas didn't come until years after that situation with the house. So that whole incident happened probably 15, 16 years ago now. I'm kind of dating
Mm-hmm.
myself here. So Nashville, I left Nashville about maybe 3 years now. When did COVID happen? 21, I think it was, either 20 or 21.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right before the COVID shutdowns happened, there was a big tornado that hit Nashville, and I was
I
in
remember that.
that. So I decided didn't want to. Just didn't want to be there anymore. It was kind of
Well,
a life changing situation.
well, I can understand that. Absolutely. Sebastian, how you doing, buddy? I haven't seen you in a while. Hey, Scotsman, good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Joe Fox, good to see you too, brother. Um, I don't, I, do you think that your significant other there, um, was possessed by this thing that was in your house?
I think so. His whole, and I tell you why, because he was so affected. He became this angry person, and he's normally not like that. Um, when my roommate, when not my roommate now, but my roommate moved in after he left, my friend, she kind of had changes happen, and then I was severely affected
Mm-hmm.
by it emotionally. I've dealt with a lot of depression. Just it just ramped up a lot of negative emotions in people. It's like it, and not only that, when you walk into that house, there was just a heaviness to it.
Okay.
Like, you ever feel that when you go
Yes.
into it? It's almost as if, and it's different everywhere you go. But if you've ever been in a room where a bunch of people are fighting and
Mm-hmm.
yelling, and then they leave, and you walk in that room, and it still has that static feel to it, that's what it was. It
Okay.
like it always kept you kind of ramped up, like something's wrong. So that's the best way I can describe it.
Well, I'm glad you're out of there now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, what? Okay, so fine arts photographer, and you're a writer exploring various afterlife research. What kind of research were you looking at?
Just after life studies. I'm really
Right.
interested in what happens after death. So I've been studying like a lot of Robert Monroe, Raymond Moody, if you've ever read any of his books.
Okay.
Just accounts. I like to talk to different physicians who work in like the ERs and things like that. A lot of them do have stories about patients about with OBEs, out of body experiences, and things like that. So just
Hmm.
stuff like that.
And it says here folklore. I'd like to get into that a little bit. But you know what? Before we get into that, everybody, I'm going to take a 70-second break. If you have to go pee, if you have to go smoke a cigarette, do what you got to do. I'll see you back in 70 seconds. Maybe a little bit longer. Who knows? All right. Who can we get in here? We'll put CLs on. Okay, yeah. We'll put
What's out there? What creates the shadows in the corners or the creatures of the dark? Who are those on the other side? What do they have to say? This is the Gateway Podcast. This is not your normal style of paranormal talk radio. Brought to you live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans.
Hey, welcome back from your breaks or whatever you had to do. I'm glad you guys came back. I'm glad nobody left. In fact, we had a couple people pop in with some great. So the people who just popped into the show, okay, this is my show, Into the Night, with me, your host, Sean Kelly. And I have my friend, Miss C.L. Thomas, with me as a guest. She has her own podcast on this platform, UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 Mississippi, 107.7. Thank you, Heidi. 107.7 New Orleans. Now, I was on her show last Tuesday. Okay, and she's always on after me on Tuesday. So whenever I pop on here Tuesday nights, stick around and watch her show because she comes on right after me. But I'm just interviewing Miss CL, and it's great. I mean, we learned a lot about you, about your paranormal experiences, your spiritual drawings, and stuff like that. But there was a couple, everything. You're an interesting person. I really enjoy what you have to say because you're very knowledgeable. And,
I feel like I'm rambling, though. I apologize.
You what?
I feel like I'm rambling.
You are not rambling. Ladies and gentlemen, is the young lady, Miss CL, rambling? I do not think so. Not at all. So I don't want to, hush. In fact, down the road, maybe me and Sel were talking about maybe co-hosting the show together. So that would be pretty cool. So I got this. I'm looking at your what is it called? Your about. I'd like to know about this. The producer and the host of a Small Town Tales podcast. What's up with that? Please tell us that. That sounds interesting.
Small Town Tales podcast. I started that about 4 years ago, and it's just a regular podcast that I would do in my spare time. And the producer on that one, I was the producer, but there was a guy that kind of helped me out, and he was the old radio announcer for the Nashville Preds, the Predators.
Okay.
I used to shoot the Preds games, and so he's really good with radio and things like that. So he kind of helped me put that show together, but it seemed like, and I guess stuff hasn't changed, but there's a lot more platforms now. But even just a few years ago, it seemed like if you weren't on television, that you didn't really get a platform.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like we were hearing the celebrity stories over and over, but not enough about the locations. So Small Town Tales was, I kind of designed that to hear more, to create like a platform for people, the experiencers. Uh,
Okay.
like people's stories, everybody else's stories, not just the celebrities. I wanted to hear from all of you people out there, basically. What do you
Hmm.
think? What do you guys do? What have you found? That sort of thing. So that's really what that was about.
Do you still do it?
I kind of hung that up probably mid last year.
Mid last year. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can understand that. I mean, like my people know on this show is I come up with a topic like an hour before the show starts, and I go from there. But it, it, it sounds interesting, and I it would have been nice if you would have kept on doing it, because I know after 2006 when I formed PTS, okay, before that, um, people were afraid to share their experiences with their hauntings. They were so afraid about it. But when TAPS came out, okay, and that was on TV, people started to open up. Okay, and that's basically what I did beside the investigating. I would just let these people talk to get it off their chest, and knowing that hey, they're not crazy after all. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um,
Yeah.
but so that's okay. I mean, I can tell that your intentions are really good for that. And you know what? Maybe you ought to bring it up again. There's something, maybe you can like. I'm not telling you what to do. I might be suggesting stuff, but bring it up again. People, people like to hear. People would love to get, like I said, stuff off their chest. And there's a lot of people, especially a lot of people in my chat room that can follow my stuff that like to hear stories. Okay. And Michelle, she's still in there, you know, she was my guest last week, and we learned a lot by my show and all other shows here on this platform. And a lot of it had to do with paranormal. I'm, I, I wouldn't mind, doing a show with you on that have people tell their stories from them on. But I know it's kind of hard though because there's a lot of people. Yeah, Michelle's here.
Michelle's here. Hi, Michelle.
Yeah, that's my guess. She was my guest. And she did it. But what is your biggest pet peeve in
My
the
biggest pet peeve.
pet peeve in the paranormal field?
Oh, don't even. Yeah. Huh. I could probably go on for hours on that one.
Okay.
It might not be safe. I don't. Okay, let's narrow it down. What do you mean by biggest pet peeve?
What
Do you mean
e-
in investigating? Do you mean in
egos?
oh, I knew we were
Hey, D, good to see you, buddy. Um, egos. Why? Okay, I'll ask you this question: why do people in the paranormal field have to?
Chris Brown. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay. Why do people in the paranormal field have to go out and try to be the best and do everything they can to be the best, but don't do it right? And second of all, um, I just lost that thought because of the ding. But why do people have to have egos? That's a big. Hey, Casey, good to see you. I mean, aren't we supposed to work together in the paranormal field?
You know, I will
And
say this. I will say this. When it comes to the paranormal, it took a while for me to realize this. Now that I've been around for a while and got to meet some of the celebs and some of the TV people, and and I watch what's going on right now on social media and all the stuff that's going on with the drama and this group hates that group and we can't work with this person because they're so it goes on and on and on.
hmm
I think there are two people. There's 2 to 3 kinds of people in this field. One of the people, one genre, are those who are generally interested in the field and want to find out for themselves or want to help other people. And these are typically the people that actually had something happen to them that steered them into this direction, right? Or they
Hmm.
have a calling or abilities, one of those kind of things. Then you have the other side that's they're the entertainers. It's a money game for them. This is they're not real. They go in, they'll film for 20 minutes. It's entertainment. It is what it is. We all enjoy watching the show. End of the story. That's my conclusions. So when you look at it with the ego and all that sort of thing, when you break it down into, oh yeah, he's just an entertainer. That's just how that is. And but then when you go into the real side of the people, I think you have to look for the real people. Like the entertainment's fine. That's what they do. And quite frankly, it's not really a bad thing because when you look at shows that was made for entertainment that's out there, I won't name names. Um, I mean, it really brought a lot of openness to this field, right? So now you have a lot
Hmm.
of people that's really studied. You have a lot of physicians coming out with spiritual stories. The whole metaphysical scene has gotten really big now. There are stories about out of body experiences showing up in the medical journals, which is unheard of. So it's really opened up the idea that there is an afterlife and reasons to look into it. And even with the people who are serious about paranormal, even in their world, they're able to come out, like you said, to talk about it and explore a little bit without feeling like they're absolutely crazy.
Right.
So that's the way I
Uh,
kind of started looking at it.
I can see that. I can see that. Richie, bantering Richie says, "Good to see you, Sean." And he's pleasure to meet you, CL. Yes.
It's nice to meet
And
you too.
those guys, you want to talk Bigfoot, man? They're the best. Him and Mr. Wojo.
I've been
Okay.
looking for a Bigfoot man if you want to come on my show.
Oh God, Richie B and Mr. Wojo. Bantering with Richie B. Boots on the ground. You're up from Massachusetts, and I'm telling you what, they're the best. They're my brothers. And if you want a good Bigfoot dudes, those are the ones. Now, Richie and Mr. Wojo. Um, they. Oh, you're welcome, Rich. And I'm being honest with you. Keep climbing, Richie. All I know is that they are. They put their heart and soul into Bigfoot hunting. Okay. And I'm just amazed at how in tune they are with the Bigfoot. I mean, they go out when it's like below zero weather to go see if they find a Bigfoot. Man, not me, man. I won't do that. Um, but they're the best. Okay. And, and I watched them two do their investigations, and I listened to their podcast, which is on Bantering with Richie B, 6 p.m. Um, and if you want to get that info out there, Richie, please do. But those are the guys that you want to hang out with, buddy. I mean, seriously, and get them on your show because they're really good, and they really do have a lot of. I've learned a lot from them too, you know. And then you got Squatch Man, and then you have Bill Rigby that comes on. I mean, there's so many people in the Bigfoot community that come onto the shows, and I have made friends with, and family. They're the best. So I look at Richie, I look at Bill Rigby, I look at Mr. Wojo, and I look at Scotchman, and those guys are investigators. Those are, you know what I mean. And they put their stuff out there because they have to. But it's not so much about being popular or
Oh yeah.
for the money or nothing like that. They do it because they love to do it, and that's what I think, and that's my own personal opinion there, Miss Seagal. Um, what it should be like for everybody. They got amazing energy. See, they're all, and I'm being honest with you guys on this. I'm gonna have to like kidnap you one day on a Saturday night, and we'll go watch their show. It's really cool. Um,
I'll do that. And you know what? I would be honored to have you guys on the show.
oh, hear that, Richie B? You and Mr. Wojo on her show. I'll send her the stuff. I'll send her all the contacts for you. But I don't know. I am really enjoying myself tonight. But
Well, this-
unfortunately, unfortunately, we have about 5 minutes left, and then I got to go, and we have to close up. So, uh, Sean Hazlitt, he kind of like has his show coming on at 9:10. So, with the last 5 minutes or so, okay, I'll be nice. We'll give you six, okay. But
six.
tell me, no, maybe seven. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. Look at that smile, guys, ladies and gents. Look at that smile. Come on, that's a nice smile there. And she has an awesome show, dudes and dudettes. She really does. She has an awesome show. But folklore, right? Did you? I don't know if Nashville is part of the Appalachian Mountains.
No.
Heidi says you're gorgeous, CO,
Oh,
and so, but tell us a little bit your favorite folklore story.
oh gosh, there's so many. Since you mentioned the Appalachian, that is by far probably one of my favorite areas for folklore. Just because it's so, you have the AT Trail there, the Appalachian Trail, and if you've ever visited anywhere in the Appalachian, especially like around North Carolina and I forget Georgia, like in that little triangle there with this in the mountains,
Hmm.
the Asheville area. It's just really fascinating. The people that live there, they practice like Appalachian magic, and there's so much folklore around that. But then
Hmm.
New Orleans folklore is really good too, with
Right.
all the different stories and legends behind all the plantations and all the stuff that happened there. So I guess history and folklore.
Okay. So, what's your favorite one?
Probably the story about Miss Brown. And actually, speaking of shadows, is the main character in Speaking of Shadows, the book I wrote, is based on this character. She's a slave that she said that when she died that she would take the whole town with her. And the story is that she ends up passing away, and that same night a hurricane comes in and completely destroys the entire town.
Hmm. Right.
So that's probably one of my favorites.
What wasn't it also too that wasn't she chained or something? And she was no longer in chains. Was that her too? Oh wait. Sparky says, "Oh yeah, that's a cross of witch, old pagan, and some hints of voodoo." Yes,
Yes.
but
Yes.
I got a question, or I have a tidbit for you. Do you know what is the biggest city in the Appalachian Mountains?
I don't.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, honey.
Is it really?
Yes, it
Wait a
is.
minute.
The biggest city in the Appalachian Mountains is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Look it up, Google it. You'll be surprised.
So
Any
technically,
look?
I can
Go
say
ahead.
that
Go.
I was born in the Appalachia.
Yes, you can. We were me and you born in the Appalachian.
I didn't know
Seriously. Yeah, I know. It makes me feel proud knowing that I'm an Appalachian kind of dude. But I know time is running short. I had a great time tonight. We got to do this again. Okay. I really enjoyed you being on the show, and you did a fantastic job. Honest to God. Must have been them coffee and donuts I had in the green room
that.
waiting
Yes,
for
it
me. You know,
absolutely was.
that's what it did. Yes. But any last word? You have the last word.
Um, the last word. Oh, come find me, I guess, at clthomas.org.
See, thank you, Heidi.
I'm not good at stuff like that.
All right, she's not good at last words. So, was it clthomas.org?
Hmm.
All right. Thank you again for being on tonight. Um, Thank you, Sparky, for being on. Richie B, thank you for being here. Mr. Wojo, Robbie Console, everybody. Heidi, I got an awesome following, and they're great. They're really great. So hang with me, kid. you'll be wearing diamonds. That's what a friend of mine used to say. Stick with
Thank
me,
you,
kid,
everyone.
you'll be wearing diamonds. But children, if you can, please, please go to your parents and give them a hug and tell them that you love them. And parents, please go to your children, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And if you have no parents and if you have no children, find somebody, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And on that note, good night, everybody. See you Tuesday night.